Fashionista.
Spin and toss.
We got invited to Nintendo to play WarioWare Move It! There's, I think, 2 exclamation marks. Us being me, Adam Knox, that's Ben Vanel.
Hey, everybody.
And Tommy Dasilo.
Wow.
We're from the Filthy Casuals podcast, the official new voices of Wario. And yeah, we went over to Nintendo and we had a look at the new WarioWare game that's coming out in about a month. What did y'all think?
It was weird that every time we ran into someone in the hallway, they only gave us about 5 seconds to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
It was just so overwhelming, honestly.
The 5 minutes, the biggest change is they've changed them to mega games this time. No, they're still micro games. It was a very similar seeming setup to Smooth Moves was the last WarioWare game it was probably directly comparable to, which was the Wii one, where you were doing a lot of motions with the Wii remote. This felt super similar to that to me.
Yeah, for most of them, you're holding a Joy-Con in each hand, and before the micro game comes up, it'll give you a little introductory stance that you're meant to be using for that game. It seems like there's a bunch of them throughout the game, so the more you play it, you become a bit more au fait with, okay, this is the Knight's pose, or this is the squat pose, so it'll give you a quick little thing, get into position, then the game starts up and you have to quickly intuit what you're meant to be doing movement-wise in your little pose.
And that is the big thing that was Smooth Moves' deal as well, is that it would bring up the hold the Wii remote like this, square up, and then you'd have to, fight someone.
I think you more recently, Nox, played, I don't know if you did as well, Tommy, that was it like a collection? Like a best of WarioWare thing?
Get It Together was the last one, which was where you were controlling a little character by moving the stick around. Before that, there was WarioWare Gold on the 3DS, which was a compilation. And then before those, there's been like a couple of weird ones where it was like people making their own games, and a small one as like a launch-ish thing on the Wii U. So this is the first more traditional, or whatever you'd say. They all have a gimmick is one of the core things about WarioWare, but this is the most back to the old style that they've done for a while, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, the style of it's great. It's got all those... The thing I really like about the WarioWare games that this has in spades, based on what we saw, is the very incongruous art styles between all the different micro games. So one loads up, one might be sort of 2D animated, and then one's very like photorealistic. There was also a game that we played that was... using the sprites from Super Mario Brothers 3, which they do really well in these games. They lift little bits from past Nintendo games.
And the music.
Recontextualize
so nostalgic,
Yeah. So what did we have? We had our squat poses where we were having to like copy a sumo. Our
core, which was like a beak and a tail sort of thing, and a few different variants of that. We can't talk about everything that we saw there too, but like we saw a bit of some of the modes that'll be in there. If you've played a WarioWare game before, you know a lot of what you're looking at. But
a little bit Mario Party style as well, because I'm not a WarioWare expert. I think I've only ever watched someone play it, and it might have been you, Nox. So,
well, then you watched a WarioWare expert play.
I really liked the sort of party mode that we had to go of. It was really it was punishing, I'll say.
Yeah.
The dice rolls were punishing.
So we played there's a few different ones, but the one that we played and can talk about was called Galaxy Quest with Tim Allen, I think. Something along those lines.
Yep.
And exactly, Mario Party board game layout. Every single time you land on a square, it was like, go and die. That's what you get. You get to die.
Give all your points to the person you hate the most and die. And
tell everyone what you did last summer, because I know what it was. And
sadly, a lot of the co-hosts of the podcast, we had to bury that day. It was very sad. So
you're adopted. Roll 2 of the die. Put both of them up your ass. You know, stuff like that.
Roll the dice to see how much your adopted parents love you. Oh, the dice disappeared. Weird. So there's a combination of with these sort of multiplayer things of you can do the what games that you'll get from the single player as a group or like one by one. And then there are also some, multiplayer games specifically built for those things where it's all four of you doing something at the same time, up to four. As much as we can't talk about specifics of things, if you've played a WarioWare game before, this one's doing what like those Game Boy Advance and the Wii and all of that sort of era of them did, which I loved, and they haven't properly gone back to the well of for a long time, which we always found funny too, especially around the launch of the Switch, which was like 6 years ago plus now, that they've got these weird new controllers at the time that they weren't really utilizing in that exciting of a way with any game to show off. And now this is that at the end of the Switch.
Right, I remember, Tommy, you really bemoaning the fact that there wasn't like a Nintendo Land thing. And like I was always a big Wii Sports fan, which both of those seemed kind of like no-brainers. There was no pack-in for the Switch at all. So yeah, it's cool to get one like this. And, we played Mario Party, whatever, the one that came out in the past 5 years. And it was fun, but it didn't necessarily grab me in a way that playing this did, I guess, because this also has single player stuff to it.
Switch Sports as well was another of the
the hard thing with the Mario Party for group sessions is that you kind of do need people that are already a bit familiar with it, a bit locked into it. Whereas I think what was really fun about this is that you can see that this would be a really good one to break out when you have people around that aren't as familiar with it at all, because it gives you all it is just hold the little things like this, and then you're not meant to know. So there's no like screen where you're spending a minute explaining the rules of the game or anything. Like you're meant to be on the back foot, which makes it so like such an appealing game for being able to have random people around and just hand them a Joy-Con and just jump in. There's no boring sort of explanation part you need to do.
You're totally right that part of the game is being overwhelmed and bewildered by seeing these new things, which no idea of like how much is going to be in there, but I would imagine it's going to be roughly the same as those older WarioWares, which is like not a million games in there. There's roughly 200 in the older ones type of thing. So I would probably expect to see around that sort of thing again. Again, don't know this. This isn't. And we'll see at the time, which is only in around a month, and we'll probably talk about this some more on the podcast this week, which if you want to go listen to us do more preview coverage of that and like Mario Wonder and a bunch of other things, you can go, there'll be links, but we'll talk about it more because I love the WarioWare games. They're so silly and fun. I loved how this one looked. The art style is so eclectic, and I like seeing that WarioWare sensibility applied to like a higher resolution thing than they often do.
And we should say too, like the motion control worked. I found them all found them all fun. Like it was all registering of the different poses that you're getting into. Like they all did really feel like they were working and that you were kind of playing a game in a satisfying different way, and not just something like, oh, this could have been a button press. Like in my experience at least, it all worked very well.
Yeah, totally. And none of them were sexually suggestive at all. None of them were embarrassing to do.
Let me just write down the time code for where we're up to so I can put that one clip in there. Sorry, that looks really...
I want to echo. I think that the last thing I want to say is something you guys have already said. The visual style is great. I do love the variety. I think one of the games that we're allowed to talk about is the train one, the Choo Choo one, which has like ridiculous sort of like, it's not Adult Swim, but like, giant 3D animated muscly arms and stuff. It's very, I guess it's like the edges, polished off of some of the kind of weirder, like turn of the millennium internet sort of shit.
It's one of those things where like part of what I like about WarioWare so much is that the games often end with a little visual joke. And,
right.
All of that style is here. And I'm excited to see it. But we'll talk about it more in a month on the podcast. Go have a listen to that. Thanks for joining us. And go on, leave. Bye.
Move it.
Oh yeah, shit.